Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they hold up. We're moving right along in our animation domination, whatever we're calling it. I don't even know anymore. But I'm holed up today with Andrew and Kyle in their respective homes.
Congratulations.
Thank you for congratulating everybody, Andrew. What would you
You're
be
welcome.
congratulating them on?
Just existing and living life to the fullest and having a name that you can call your own.
Can I rephrase what you said?
Yeah.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
What do you say to that, Chase?
I say congratulations.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yes.
Every time you say that, Andrew, you get braver.
Kyle, you sound really crisp on the Kirkland Signature Series hotline.
Thank you. I just want to, again, pause and just take a moment to thank Kirkland Signature Products for all that they do for us in our show. We just recently had a very honest sit down with their PR and relations team, marketing team about
the top brass there, if you will.
If you will. We sat down and talked about our values, talked about their values. And we're both, again, just on the same page. And it's a really refreshing partnership and relationship to have Hold Up Podcast and Kirkland Signature Products all working together for a common goal. And that's, keep it made in America. Don't let outside influences dictate your style and dictate your approach. So very much appreciate Kirkland Signature Products for all they do for the show.
100%. And one of the things that we talked about with the top brass there is our good friends at TaylorMade. Kirkland is proud to sell their products, and they're proud to bundle that with us and Hold Up and creating a brand that reaches far and wide and just stands for all the right things that Kyle talked about. Kirkland's, along with TaylorMade, thank you.
And thank you for your support.
Well said, you two. Speaking of American made, we're looking at an American Tail, aren't we, Andrew?
Wow, that was a really good lead-in.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. You're a wordsmith. You're a wordsmith.
Thanks.
Yeah, good stuff. But yeah, we watched American Tail.
It's a big one.
And we're here. We're here to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a lot to talk about in today's episode. But before we get into all that, Kyle, you know what time it is. It's time for you to tell me a little bit about your energy levels. And today we're going to let's use cat terms.
Oh, energy level is a cat term?
Yeah,
pretty easy.
Yeah, it should be good for you. You've got 7 cats?
No. Yeah. It's one of those days where I just need to throw up immediately and vacate my bowels in the midst of a step of a door, so that 5 hours later, when they who feed me wake up, they step right in it and ruin the sock they just put on. Just want to, again, thank Kirkland Signature Product for being a part of this collaboration. I know they know what I'm talking about.
Did they provide you the socks? Is it Kirkland Signature socks that got ruined?
They are.
Oh, what a joy!
What a joy!
And those are so durable too. It's a surprise they were ruined.
If you're following along at home, you can count this as a drinking game. Every time Kyle mentions Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, or Kirkland Signature, you drink. We'll add to the rules each week.
You drink from your. I was gonna say, you're drinking from your seltzer, your THC seltzer, right, Chase?
Whatever you want to drink from. The toilet, it doesn't matter.
No, I was going to say we're going to have to every time I say one of those, you have to drink a whole handle of vodka, preferably Kamchatka, the world's premier bottom shelf vodka.
They didn't sponsor the show, so we're going to have to cut that.
Do you remember that dude, Shoe Nice, who would literally drink full fifths of vodka or straight whiskey, chug it on YouTube, and people would freak the fuck out because they didn't believe it was real? Do you remember that guy?
Yep. Didn't he die?
No, he's on Instagram. I got served a video of his. I think he just created an Instagram the other day. He's like, "This is Shoe Nice. If you heard that I died, that's incorrect. I'm here, standing in the flesh." It was the same dude. He's like, "I'm on Instagram now, so putting those rumors to rest. I'm alive." And I'm disappointed if you thought I was dead and didn't try to seek me out.
Okay.
Because I'm right here.
Yeah, I know we've all thought he was dead for years now. Like, so this is
He's alive and kicking. He looked healthy too, believe it or not. So
I don't believe it. But anyway, back on track. So we're going back to Don Bluth today. I don't want to talk too much about the backstory because we've covered it in the first few episodes of this animation run that we've been doing. We talked about Steven Spielberg and his relationship with Don Bluth, Don Bluth's relationship with Disney, how he left and did Secret of NIMH, which was an independent movie. Secret of NIMH was, I wouldn't say a blockbuster success. It was definitely an independent film, but Steven Spielberg watched it, loved it, and he wanted to get into animation. This was this first collab he did with Don Bluth. Obviously, we covered Land Before Time. We talked about All Dogs Go to Heaven, and even looked at We're Back, which was inspired by Don Bluth, even though Don Bluth didn't direct it. So we covered all that in the previous episodes, but this is going all the way back to the beginning of the Don Bluth, Steven Spielberg relationship, and it's an American Tail. Andrew, what do you remember about American Tail when you were a kid?
I remember Fievel. I remember the song Somewhere Out There. I love all things Linda Ronstadt, but I'll be honest, I didn't remember a ton from when I was younger, but I remember Fievel, the little mouse with his little hat, that song. And that's really all that gets riled up in the old memory bank. But that's enough.
Did you have this movie on VHS?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Or did you have Fievel Goes West? That's going to be the key. Yeah.
It depends. Is Somewhere Out There in Fievel Goes West? If so, I think it might have been that one. But if not, I definitely had this one.
I don't know if they both have the same song. They could.
I don't think they do. I really don't.
Well, and the reason we talk about Fievel Goes West is because if you're a product of the 90s, that was probably the one that you remember watching because it came out kind of close to where we were all born. And
I'm pretty sure I had both of them, but I don't know. This one seems to hit a little bit more, even though there's not that much to it in terms of what I remember.
Yeah. So. What about you, Kyle? Did you have a big memory with Fievel and American Tail?
Not this movie, no. But Fievel Goes West, yes. I don't remember what happened, but I remember watching it, and I remember Tiger. This is definitely one of those movies where you kind of watch it, and that animation style kind of brings you back to a number of different movies, because there was a number of different movies that use this animation style. I know Chase had already mentioned, the biggest one, which is the Secrets of NIMH, which is a phenomenal movie. But it definitely kind of ties it all together.
It's
for that time period.
It is definitely a Don Bluth film. Like when you watch this, you don't have to second guess who did the animation on this. You're like, this is Don Bluth in a nutshell. And it kind of falls in with Land Before Time and like to your point, Secret of NIMH. It has that very striking, beautiful animation style. Very, very well drawn. A lot of rotoscoping in this film too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially the end little effect too is pretty good. Pretty well done.
Did you have it on VHS? Because I feel like this is a huge VHS movie for a lot of kids in the 80s and 90s.
I did not have this on VHS.
Tracks.
Did you just call him poor?
Yes.
I just said tracks. Like, I believe it. Because he said he didn't really remember this one. So that tracks that he didn't have it,
Yeah. I'm going to say I'm in the same boat as you two. I know my brother being older, I got to see this movie a lot more than probably the average 90s kid, which Fievel Goes West, Andrew, that was 1990, right? Do you know off the top of your head?
It was somewhere. But
yeah.
Not off the top of my head. It was 90, 91, 92, somewhere in that range. But
because it came out, I think, before We're Back, but I do know that
definitely did.
Fievel Goes West and We're Back ended Steven Spielberg's animation dreams. Both were critically panned. I do know that much, but I do remember watching a lot of Fievel Goes West. That one, they were on more of a train. It's two classic American stories, This one we're dealing with the immigration process, and Fievel Goes West was obviously that time in the turn of the century where they were heading out on the Oregon Trail. Like, so definitely dealing with like the history of America in that way. I do want to talk about a book that I read in college called Mouse. I was telling you guys a little bit about this, but Mouse was a book that was written, I think, in 1980, if not slightly before that. Um, it's a graphic novel. It won, I think, a Pulitzer. It's a phenomenal piece of work, and it got banned in a lot of schools for a while. But what it deals with is this guy wanted to tell his dad's story from World War II and the Holocaust. His dad was Jewish, and his dad got put in Auschwitz. So how he wanted to tell that story is he wanted to tell it into a more of a palatable story that children could understand, because he thought it was something that was necessary to pass on. To do this, he makes the Jewish characters mice, and it's very similar to what we're about to talk about with Fievel, but they're mice and the Nazis are cats. These cats are dressed up as Nazis. They have the Nazi logo on their sleeves. Obviously, they put like a little kitten Hitler in it.
So it's not like heavy-handed storytelling. It's literally like, these are Nazis.
These are Nazis. These are Nazi cats. And
Cool.
and then the Americans getting involved later on, and their dogs. How he writes them is it's not, because we think of dogs as very loyal, nice, lovable, all that stuff. No, they're just there to get rid of the cats. They don't give a shit about the mice. It's a very powerful graphic novel. I don't want to get too far into it because it's something that everyone, I think, should read. It's always going to be pertinent. It's always going to be a historical thing that I think people should know about. And it's a very sad and tragic story, and he pulls no punches, even though, again, he's trying to write it for kids so that they never forget. When this book was published, this movie starts coming around. Fievel is a mouse, and his family are mice, and they're avoiding the cats. This movie starts in Russia, if I'm not mistaken?
Russia.
Yeah, it starts in Russia, and so the cats are kind of driving the mice out of Russia. But it's very similar to Mouse for a little bit anyway. I think after a while they're completely different. And we'll explain that. But for me, I was reading through it, and the guy that wrote Mouse did claim that there was some plagiarism with The American Tail that Steven Spielberg wrote. Obviously, they denied it, but American Tail kind of goes off more into just kind of immigration into America. There is that little backstory at the beginning, but once you get through that, you kind of fall into that old classic tale. And Kyle, you're our lovely historian. What can you tell us about that time and that day and age?
During this time, this is like right around the Industrial Revolutions, when it's at its peak, and its peak is sustained for quite a while. And there's new technologies. People are able to get across oceans, get across continents easier due to, locomotion, steam travel, things of that nature. It's also a time while people were being, technologies are being made, brought people together. It also separated people. And by that, I mean, the classes. This is a time of very large discrepancies between the classes across the board, and the haves versus the have-nots. This is a time when governments, especially the government in Russia, which is where the mice are from, were in between reformation and the need for revolution. And I don't know if our listener base knows too much about Russian history. I don't know a whole lot, but I do know that there was a very big revolution that happened that kind of led to where things are today. And that revolution was trying to cede power from the czars and the great czars that were there, ruling families, dynasties of Russia, and giving power from them to the people. And they got there in a multitude of ways, but before that was happening, there was a lot of repression, a lot of people being murdered. There was great famines, there was lots of poverty. Mismanagement from the czars led to the situation that our mice family is in, essentially. But The actual 1880s, I just looked it up because I can't remember. The actual 1880s started with an assassination. I believe it was Alexander the second or the third. They were very aggressive when it came to their oppression of their people. Very counter reform. They wanted censorship. You couldn't deviate from what they said. You didn't have a sense of identity, and you could not say whatever you want. It was not a free speech time. Police had a lot of power during that time, and they really did a good job of maintaining autocracy. But people were not having it. They were gathering places that were like intellectual, like universities, places where public life was more like in the cities where people could gather. There became more dissent in those areas. But essentially, after the assassination, things started to snowball, not like immediately, but over the course of, like Andrew said before, a couple decades of time that led up ultimately to the very nasty Reformation that happened in 1905, the revolution that led to essentially Marxism, which became capitalism. So there was a lot of different things going on, but the themes of like which are in this too, is just like expressionism of like singing the song of there is none of this in America. There is no, and when they say cats, they're talking about oppression. Just something to remember in this movie. And they're saying there are no cats in America. There is no oppression in America. But when they get to America, you will see that there is probably some of that
There's some
in a
cats in
different way.
America.
There's some cats in America. However, they're able to gather, use their right to assembly, to overthrow the cats and to make their voices heard. Whereas they would have just been, you know, killed elsewhere.
Right. I do think that there is some similarities between this and Mouse, but instead of Mouse, they're dealing with kind of the Nazi oppression, and this is just kind of general oppression. And they
Well,
go ahead.
I do want to I want to talk about that because there was absolutely Jewish oppression in that region for they were called the pogroms, where there were riots that were essentially started by ordinary people. Sometimes it was Cossacks and others, but they were essentially riots targeted towards the Jewish people. They'd burn shit and they'd kill people, blow things up, and it was all just to get. They didn't want the Jewish people there. They wanted them
Right.
out. And I'm pretty sure we'll talk about it, but the opening scene kind of leads to that. It seemed like it was a planned pogrom, and it would have happened around the early 1880s, which is when this movie starts.
Right.
Think Fiddler on the Roof. Think of, anything that deals with that early Russian oppression, being Jewish, it all falls under that same umbrella.
Right.
So,
We're talking about a similar story. It doesn't have to be exactly like the same, because that's why I don't think that there could be similarities between these two, and I think there's a lot of differences too. This story is being told based off Steven Spielberg's grandfather. I don't know if you guys know that, but
I figured it was based off like his family's immigration. I figured that's what it was.
His grandfather's name was Fievel. So that's where the name comes from. Don Bluth hated it because Don Bluth hates everything that any director tries to tell him to do. So Don Bluth hated it. And then Fievel gets a nickname Philly at one point during the movie, and that was Don Bluth trying to overcome the fact that he didn't think American audiences would react to such a Jewish name like Fievel, like an immigrant name like that. But it stuck. Fievel became a household character. I mean, he's all over Universal Studios because of that and because of Spielberg's influence. But Fievel is named after Spielberg's grandfather. And some of these stories that were passed down from his grandfather to Spielberg based on like how he was treated as a Jew in the early United States is what's filtering through in some of this animation. And we'll point out a couple of them, but it kind of makes it hit a little bit harder too. Oppression's still there in this day and age too, in 2026, and we thought we'd be far removed from it, but it's always going to be a thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to kind of harp on to a little bit is it was happening to a lot of different groups of people who were everywhere in the world, everywhere this was happening. It was not just in Russia, it was also across the board. This was in the UK, this was in France, this was in Germany, this was everywhere in Europe, especially. And that's why there was such a large exodus from these places to go to America, where there was opportunity for you to be who you wanted to be. You were quote unquote free of persecution,
It
and
was
you were able to be who you wanted to be. And that's why there's so many characters in some of these numbers and these songs and these people that Five meets that are immigrants, immigrant stories that are like, we laugh at, they're very simply told, but like, yeah, it's sad. A lot of really tough things happen to people on the transatlantic journey. And even before that, and the reasons why people left, there's a whole song about it when they're on the ship that we'll talk about. But it was a lot of different people. But the ones that we're following in the story are a Jewish family. And they're not shy about it. And I'm glad that they're not, because I think it really adds another layer to this story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we dive further into it, Andrew, was this movie a big success? The first pairing of Spielberg and Don Bluth?
Relatively, I had a 9 million budget, grossed 85 million worldwide. So
You
yeah,
say relatively? It made $80 million in what?
it made 76.
76. So, and what year was
Yeah,
this?
76.
86.
This was 86. So yeah, it was a
That was
success.
a hell of a run for because 9 million would probably put it as like an independent animated film. That's probably what changed the game too, because Secret of Nim did well, but just kind of as word of mouth. I don't think it was like that successful. But Andrew, you can probably speak to this. No one really in '86 was attempting to take on Disney at the box office for an animated film.
No, no,
Very unheard
no.
of. So Spielberg kind of turned the tide there. This movie does get credited a lot. Like Secret of Nim gets credited as turning the animation tide, but this movie put a staple on it because of the way it was able to make a lot of money. And we know that money drives the train. But does it hold up? I think that's where we're at now. So, Andrew, start us off. Where does this movie take place and where does it begin?
It starts off in a very snowy land, clearly in winter. I believe we come up on this small little house. It's got a sign over the door that says Moskovitz. And you assume that the Moskovitz live there. And then it pans down to a smaller, even smaller door, clearly a mouse door. And it's got a little sign over that says Moskovitz.
And I want to point out too, like the humans live in this world too. They didn't like just excommunicate the humans. So like you see the humans just living their day to day lives, and then and then we shrink down into the world of the mice, and it reminded me a lot of The Great Mouse Detective. Only they kind of show more of the human interaction, which I think puts it a positive towards this movie as opposed to The Great Mouse Detective, which we kind of felt like kind of was like a little off.
Yep. Yeah, they clearly. The one thing that I loved about this is like every time they showed human interaction or human ongoings, they would show like the mouse equivalent of what was happening below them or underneath them. So it was hand in hand, foot in foot with humans. It wasn't ignored, and it added to the whole element.
They're celebrating Hanukkah, right?
I believe so. Yes, it's around that time. We meet the whole Mouskowitz family. Obviously, there's Papa and Mama, and then there's three little ones. I don't think we got the names of all of them, but the one that's important is, of course, Fievel. He's our main antagonist. He's a cute little curious mouse, full of energy, very young. I think at this point, they're asking about gifts, and the father's like, "Oh, what gifts?" And of course, he's joking. And this is when he presents Fievel with his hat that doesn't fit him, that he seems to lose all the time, but somehow always manage to find. He finds out it's his, I believe, his great grandfather's hat. So there's some importance and brevity to this gift that his father bestows upon him. And then shortly after that, I think they start hearing some like loud noise outside. A lot of shaking, a lot of rumbling. And Kyle, what's happening?
So this is where the Cossacks are coming to dislodge them, and by them I mean the Jews, from their homes.
Yes.
And the Cossacks were essentially just the right hand of the czars. They would use them for military conquest earlier in the 1800s, the 19th century. And at this point, they were essentially the ideal form of a Russian national from the Tsar's point of view. So they were white, military, horseback riding, God fearing Orthodox people, Orthodox Christian rather. So it's not really a hard stretch to see why they'd be driving Jewish people from their homes.
Yeah.
This is a time
And
when,
this,
again, like people were starting to fight back, and by fight back, use their voices to voice dissent. It's not hard to believe that, they made too much of a stink, and the Cossacks said, "Fuck you, get off our land," and they just burned shit down.
yeah, and this would be an example of probably a pogrom where they were literally inciting riots, creating destruction to scare Jewish people or people they didn't want just out of their land, out of their territory. And that's exactly what happened. They rode in, they set the house on fire that the Moscovitzes and Mouskovitzes were a part of. And in the human side, they're worried about the men on horses, as Kyle
Right.
alluded to. But from the mouse perspective, they're worried about the cats because the Cossacks were bringing cats with them as well, which is funny when you think about it. But they're these evil cats that are out to get rid and drive out all the mice, the Jewish mice specifically. And I believe Fievel are mistakenly brave. Fievel goes out to take on some of these cats. And what happens, Chase?
He's like trying to distract him. There's like a lot of like running and jumping off different like items. I think bottles and stuff like that, trees. It's quite the chase scene. There's actually an Indiana Jones reference. I don't know if you guys caught it.
The hat.
Yeah, Five runs through this kind of tunnel under the snow and his hat falls off. And he immediately goes back and grabs the hat and pulls it through the tunnel as the cats like slam into the tunnel itself, so it closes. It's like a Temple of Doom reference, but didn't know if you guys caught that. But I actually chuckled. I was like, oh, that's clever. But he ends up somehow, I can't remember how exactly, but through all the chaos, he gets away from the cats. And aren't they up in a tree or something? And he gets reunited with his family, and they're like, don't do that.
Yep.
That was really stupid of you.
Uh-huh.
But it's very brave. So they get reunited, and then his dad's like talking about going to America now, like where they're free from cats.
Free from oppression.
Yeah, free from oppression, that there's no cats in America. And this is a line that's repeated multiple times throughout the movie, but especially in this early on scene. But the family ends up escaping the cats, and they're getting ready to board a ship, right? Am I skipping too far ahead? It kind of moves kind of quickly.
No, it moves quickly, but they're boarding a ship, but they're in Germany at this point. So they've already left Russia or wherever they are, whether that's,
That is a
Belarus
long
or
way for a
Ukraine.
mouse to travel, too.
We're just going to assume that they made necessary steps to get to the closest ship to get them to America. And that happened to be someplace in Germany. And yeah, they're boarding the ship. And at this point, we're really introduced to Fievel's curiosity because, it's funny that you have the on-ramp that all the people are boarding. And then next to that, you have like the ropes that are connected to the dock from the ship that the mice are using to board the ship. So like I said, in this movie, the mice are always in step with the humans, just on a different level or different plane.
Yep.
But they're boarding. And Fievel is the very last behind his family. And he's got 5 or 6 other adult mice carrying heavy luggage and equipment behind him. And he sees the water, he sees the seagulls, he sees smoke, and he thinks the ship is on fire. And, like I said, this is kind of the introduction to his
What did they say? I'm glad
curiosity.
you brought that up, too, because there was like kind of like a little funny scene because he says, what is that, Papa? The ship sinking? And they're like, keep moving. And he's like,
Yes.
what's that, Papa? Is that bird going to kill us? Keep moving. He's like, Papa,
Yeah.
why are you mad at me? Papa, what are you drinking? Is that vodka in the glass? Keep moving.
Are we there yet? Are we there? It was very much the child who wouldn't shut up and needed to focus on the task at hand, but simply couldn't. And every time he would stop, he would interrupt the flow of their movement because they were very much moving to the beat of Horner's music at that point. every time he would stop, he would bump into the people behind him, and they would all lose their focus. I'm surprised a few of them didn't fall off into the water, but yeah, it was a funny little moment.
Yeah, and it was a good like historical moment too, because they really crowded those ships when they were immigrating, and they were and a lot of people lost their lives just trying to make that passage.
For sure.
And then, nothing can go well, can it, Andrew? We have to have something happen, right? So what happens next after the ship takes off? I think it's nighttime at this point, that the ship's in the middle of the ocean. And what do we get?
Well, I think there's a storm that hits, but before that, this is where we get the mix of people from around the globe, mainly Europe, but we get a melting pot of people who are escaping their oppression or their issues in their homeland. You have the guy from Sicily, the Italian, who's trying to leave because the mafia has killed half his family. You have the little mouse from Ireland who's leaving because he lost his love to a cat. The only thing that was left of her was her tail. And these are all little song and dance sequences that are part of There Are No Cats in America big musical number that they're singing. Great song, by the way. Actually, I was very much into that song immediately. It stuck with me from the moment I heard it all the way through. But you're just kind of introduced to the melting pots of people who are escaping their own individual oppression and trying to reach America, where there are no cats.
This movie is a big step up in the musical numbers than what we listened to last week with James and the Giant Peach, which ironically are two movies with the main character going to America to free himself from oppression. So we nailed the theme.
We didn't plan that.
Yeah, we didn't until we kind of started watching it. And I was like, oh, shit, we actually did nail a theme at that. But the musical numbers way better than last week. It's already a plus.
Really good music.
And there's plenty of them in this movie. There's more than I remember. Did either one of you remember this, or was this kind of a surprise that there was this many?
I was surprised at the amount, but a few of them came back to me. This one, the one we'll talk about in a bit, and then of course the Somewhere Out There. Like all three of those came storming back as soon as I heard them.
If I'm not mistaken, Somewhere Out There I think won something like an Oscar. I don't know, like Oscar for best music and that.
Would not be surprised. I'll look it up real quickly, but it's a good song. Like you've heard that in so many other things too. I feel like that's not the only place that I've heard that song or like that song being referenced.
It's got to be in Fievel Goes West too. You can look that up as well because that musical number is too good to keep in just one film. But as Andrew alluded to, they end up getting into a storm. And what happens in this storm, Kyle?
So they're in this storm. Fievel is truly just like, this is why you can't trust children with things, because they just have no clue what danger is. So Fievel is curious about the ship, and he's just exploring the ship. And he's on like a block of soap, and it's all sudsy because there's water in the hole where they are. And he's kind of sloshing and sliding around, and he goes to the mouse hole to his family, and his dad's like, "Get off that thing, over here and eat." And he's like, "Oh, okay." But before he can do that, the ship turns, so he goes back to the hole as it lifts to the other side, and he ends up at the stairwell going up from the hold onto the deck of the ship. And the doors kind of open, it's flapping in the wind, and water's coming down, more water's coming down, and he just kind of looks at it like just curious. His dad's saying, "Fievel, come on, let's go back inside. Let's come back over here." And he goes, well, he takes his hat off, throws his hat up onto the deck of the ship, and he goes, "Well, I got to get my hat now." And his dad's like running after him, and Fievel gets swept out onto the deck and then subsequently swept out to sea. And there is a whole very well animated, especially for children, scene that happens where the waves take on like
a demon,
like some kind of shape shift. I don't know how you describe it.
Love the visuals. It honestly reminded me of oh my God, Kyle, I'm drawn. Chase, you can cut
Fantasia?
this. Fantasia, yes, it reminded me
Yeah,
of the
that's a good
Beast.
reference.
It's Night on Bald Mountain by
Night and
Mussorgsky.
Bob. Yes,
It's
yes.
the last piece in that. It does look a lot like that.
I don't remember this scene as a kid, but I bet you this scared the shit out of me. There's no way it didn't.
100%. It's dark.
Yeah.
It scared the
It's
shit
dark.
out of
It
me
is
now
a
as an
little dark.
adult. And I like watch a bunch of horror movies, but this was like, I was like, damn, this is pretty intense for a kid's movie because this demon kept changing shapes and like its eyes would like engulf the ship itself. Like it was horrific.
It was visually stunning, though. I love how they did it.
Oh,
It was
amazing.
very captivating. Yeah.
Right. And this hand-drawn animation too, going back to it, it's just like
it's the
so
best.
well done.
The best.
And it is Don Bluth. You know what Don Bluth visualization looks like, but it does have that classic Disney aura to it.
100%.
The animation here still is incredible to look at. But Fievel's lost at sea now, and at first I was like, well, he's dead.
Yeah, I thought he was just done for because that mouse would just be an easy snack for a fish.
And also would just drown.
It would just drown. Because like he's too young to know how to swim. Has he been in a water environment? But he's just floating there, and the ship's still carrying on its voyage, and now he's in the ocean. So you're like, well, he's dead, and it's raining, it's storming. But it just skips ahead to the ship, leaving him behind, and his dad like trying to find him, and we cut to Fievel in a bottle, and I was like, I don't remember this bottle. And he's floating in this glass bottle, and he wakes up to see America. So he made it after all. Somehow, at the same time, the ship makes it. I don't know. It is an animated kids movie.
The only thing I can think of is like they were really close to because there's a whole dance number that happens and song and when they're on the boat. So clearly a long passage of time has happened. So maybe they were just close to New York. And there was a storm, and he got in the bottle. There are so many things that don't make sense in this movie because it's a children's movie that it's whatever, honestly.
We do, if you're new to the show, we do give a little bit more of a leeway for movies like this that are really tailored to children. So this gets a pass for that reason. So, that's the best we can do there. But they end up in America, but they're now separated. What happens now, Andrew, that Fievel's made it into America?
Oh, he gets picked up by this French bird.
He helps him get cleaned up, and he gets him out into the world, essentially. They do a whole little song in there about Never Say Never. It's a good song. It was a good song. A good little number. Good animations.
Hey, did you all notice that when he was rescued by this pigeon, he didn't have his hat? But at the very end of the musical number, Never Say Never, the pigeon just magically was wearing it and handed it to him. Did that bother you at all?
I didn't notice that, but
I rewound it multiple times to make sure that Fievel didn't have his damn hat. And he didn't until the very end of Never Say Never.
He loses that damn hat like multiple times, too.
When he was pulled out of that glass bottle, he didn't have it. He didn't have it. And I did notice that at times he tucks it in his little belt waistband behind. So maybe he had it there and we just didn't see him because he didn't turn around for both the camera. But, he did not have that damn hat until the end of Never Say Never.
But to your point, too, like his pants never fit either. He was always like dragging them up. So like that hat would have fallen out. Like he should have lost that hat like 8 times.
Yeah. That bothers me. I think I'm going to go ahead and just say that's an automatic point deduction for me.
The hat?
Yeah. Andrew, how do you feel?
I'm going to let it slide because I'm letting it slide that he somehow escaped and survived the 7 seas as an infant mouse. I was going to say, I might as well let other things slide.
I was going to say one of those has to have a point deduction. We can let one slide. You can't let them all slide.
Yeah. I guess just take your pick.
Moving the plot along here, Fievel ends up in America, and he's like wandering around looking for his family. And this is where he kind of meets a lot of the other immigrant mice. And there's one scene, and I can't remember exactly where it happens, but I want to talk about it now because it is an important scene in retrospect. But there's a scene where he sees through this glass window a bunch of kids studying in this school, and he's kind of listening to the lesson that they have, and then he wanders off, and he's just really sad because he doesn't have his family. This was actually something that Steven Spielberg's grandfather told him about, is that early on when he was in America, Jews were not allowed to participate in school. The only way that they could actually have education was if they listened through an open window, and that was rain or snow or shine. So Steven Spielberg had Don Bluth put that scene in for that specific reason.
Nice little nugget. I would never have put two and two together. So, thank you for that.
I wouldn't either. And I think that's one that's kind of lost on a lot of other people too, because all it just looks like is like Fievel just kind of looks like he's just searching for his place, which is his lost family. But Andrew, he wanders around for a little bit, and I think he meets another cryptic character, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets dropped off by the pigeon, and he gets dropped off and runs right into Warren T. Rat, who's sleazy, slimy from the start. You don't really know what to expect or from this guy, but you don't really trust him. And this guy, Warren T. Rat, he's all about his money. He is conniving, no good, dirty. You meet his little cockroach friend. I don't even know what the cockroach's name was, but lives in his little breast pocket. Cool little character.
Very intimidated little character, too. He's just like a little lackey.
Gave me like Petrie vibes from Land Before Time.
Yeah.
We're of that same animator, same creator, very much, like you said, I'm a lackey character. But he runs into this Warren T. Rat who's looking to make extra 50 cents or something like that to get him over his quota. So he takes Fievel with him, saying he knows where his family is, and gives him to this person who puts him to work. And he's how would you even describe it? It's like a little.
It's like almost like an orphanage, because it's all like kid characters. It's
just child labor. It's just they're just
child
using
labor
them for cheap child labor. This is before there were like any kind of reforms for child labor laws or anything like that. So it was kind of like, take the orphans, make them work, collect the money. They don't pay them, take the overhead. You're good.
Yeah, and he gets thrown up in a bunk in like a one room where like 100 of other mice children are sleeping together, and Fievel's not cool with it, so he plans an escape and essentially just climbs out the window and gets this other character, Tony, to climb out with him, and he was out. That was it. It
was so quick. And so quick. Like it just didn't feel like it needed to be in the plot point. I understand when we'll get to the end on why this character was introduced. It was just like a bump in the road. It did not even really matter to the whole plot. But other than Fievel now meets a couple of these orphans, and that's how he gets the nickname Philly, because doesn't that character call him Philly?
Yeah.
And I can't remember why either.
It's just because
he doesn't like the name Fievel.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, Fievel, we gotta change that. How about Philly? That's pretty much what.
And that's Don Bluth's answer to Spielberg wanting the main character to be named Fievel.
Passive aggressive.
Being a dick. But anyway, so now they've escaped. And what do we get next, Kyle? These characters are now on the loose and out in New York.
Little Tony. They have like their own little adventure in New York, and you get to see the city life and different things that go on. But he meets a other little mouse that is his little cutie, and they just link up, and it kind of like gets to the point where I don't know what's happening. Don't they go on a shoe, y'all? They go on like some kind of like the Tony and the girl mouse would go into the shoe, and they cover the lid. And Fievel's like, "What are you guys doing? What are you doing? Am I wrong, or did that happen?"
My memory's fuzzy, Andrew. I'll have to
Mine's fuzzy. I know that Bridget, I believe is her name, who is the Irish mouse. I remember her talking to like a crowd of mice below. She was on some like pedestal above in one of like the open mice markets. I guess it's supposed to be like the Lower East Side or something like that. She's talking to him about the cats. And this is when like Tony like sees her and becomes smitten and just is like gravitated towards her. And he eventually like climbs up on the little pedestal, whatever it was that she was standing on. And at this point, Fievel he doesn't completely understand that Tony's like smitten and fallen, but then he catches on and shoves them into each other and they kiss. I think that's what you're referencing. At least that's what I thought. So,
because I thought they went into like some kind of shoe and they were like, "Where'd you go?" And then he kind of leaves, and Tony gets up. He's like, "Where'd he go? Where's Philly at?"
This whole
there's something he gets separated from them at some points, and that's when he climbs up into the gramophone or whatever in the corner apartments.
Yep.
He thinks it's his father playing the violin, but it's just a record. Not even a record. They didn't have records then. That was just yeah. And he climbs into the horn and then falls through, and they're like mice, and they throw shit at him, and he jumps out the window again. And this is when I think he runs back into Tony and Bridget's. Maybe that's what you were referencing. But that was a little fuzzy. There was a bunch of juxtaposition that really didn't matter in that time frame.
There's also like a big plot point wrapped up in it too, so it just felt like a lot of chaos. Yeah. I think there's too many revolving doors in this movie, so I think it loses itself along the way.
See, I don't necessarily agree that it loses itself, because I think some of these little side quests and side doors were great for a child's mind.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's fair.
They were all little nonsensical adventures and trying to find some answer. It was pointless to us, but for a child, I could see why that would pull them in.
Point for you, Andrew. So, and then at the rally, too, and during this scene, I think we get this, is she the head of the mice? Is she like the mayor of the mice? Like this older mouse is like... She's like
an organizer. She's just like a public.
She's a rich socialite. She's a rich socialite from uptown.
Right. And she's trying to organize
like an Astor family type, something like that. Someone who's got money, who lives on like the Upper East Side or whatever, and has power and influence.
Right. And during the rally, she agrees with what's being said. She's like, cats have infiltrated America. We need to stand up against the cats. And so she's planning a rally for all the mice. And while this is going on, Fievel and his family are in the same room.
Like they're nearby.
Yeah, but it's clever storytelling because Fievel's either blocked off from them or they're blocked off from him. And so they never see each other, but they're in the same room, and it's very loud. There's a lot of commotion, so they wouldn't be able to hear each other or see each other, and then they pass each other. So he's looking for his family, but they're never too far. So it does kind of create that world as being smaller than it actually is.
Yep.
But this rally's being planned against the cats. What happens now, Kyle, now that we're starting to plan this rally?
Oof. Is this where he runs back into the warranty rat, or is that a little later?
It's a little later.
What? I don't know what happens now.
Andrew, you want to take it?
So at this point, they create this elaborate plan that Fievel seemed to concoct himself, and they all agreed it was a brilliant plan. I think we're at that point where they're putting their master plan together to take out the cats, correct?
Yeah.
They're meeting down at the pier. Long story short, again, it all just kind of runs together at this point. They're creating, it looks like a giant, like, mechanical rat is what it is.
With fireworks and other things.
Fireworks. And the plan was to let this, what do they call it? Their secret weapon. They were to release this secret weapon right as the boat from Hong Kong was taking off, in hopes that the cats would be so scared they would run across the pier and jump on the Hong Kong boat and be out of town.
Right. They were going to kind of the cats, there was kind of only like one way in, one way out. So the cats were going to distract the cats, so the cats would chase them into this building, and then they would release a secret weapon which would startle the cats, and they would have to, and their only way out would be either in the water, which is clever because cats don't like swimming, or onto the boat, and that boat would lead them to Hong Kong, and they would be far, far away, and then that would get rid of the cats in America. And during all this, Fievel and his companion are running, and Fievel they get separated because Fievel hears a violin in the sewage drain, and he's like, "Oh, it's Papa. Papa plays a violin just like that." And so he's like, "Papa, I'm coming for you." So he climbs down in the sewage drain, and he meets a bunch of cats down there, especially one particular cat. But he sees our rat friend over in the corner, and the rat friend, we find out, is not a rat, right, Kyle?
Nope. He is indeed a cat.
Indeed.
He's a cat rat.
He's a cat rat. He's a big
out
old cat rat.
By they, I mean Fievel finds out that he's a fraud. He's actually leading the gang of cats so that they can control the mice. And this is where it starts getting deep again, because there are a lot of different layers happening here that are not too far off of reality. With what was happening back in that time of like in New York. I know that we've all seen The Godfather, right?
Yes. Of course.
Yes. So like the Dons that ruled the neighborhoods that they're in. Very much kind of one of those kind of like, I'm masquerading as a working man. I'm masquerading as you. I'm one of you. Let me get you a job.
Masquerading as someone who runs a fucking olive oil business.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. You know? Very much so. And it's very clear that they're going like, this is a mob in some way, shape, or form, organized crime. And the mask starts to come off, so to speak. His nose pops off, and they see that, oh my goodness, Fievel sees that he's actually a cat, and he's been had. Not that he wanted to be like had in the first place, because he was an indentured servant against his own will, trafficked into that situation. So it starts to get deep at this point, but at this point he gets imprisoned, and the other mice are trying to go along with their plan to get rid of the cats, and he's just crying, and this is where we meet one of the cooler characters, right, Andrew?
Tiger,
who would also make an appearance in the sequel.
Yep, great character. Love the animation of the cat. Love the voice acting. The voice acting.
Like their little song and dance number here too. It was, again, a lot of the musical numbers really, really hold up and stick with you, in my opinion, at least.
Yep.
So.
And this cat's vegetarian too, so.
Yeah, he doesn't eat red meat.
Yeah,
which would kill a cat. So.
Yeah, no, it's not plausible, but he says he does eat fish though.
Fish, he did say that. Thank you for clarifying.
So he's actually pescatarian, but anyway, he befriends Fievel, and I think not wanting to, but not mistakenly like letting Fievel free because he breaks the cage that Fievel's in by like just dancing around it, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah. So. I don't remember it, but he breaks it open and lets him loose.
So
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, after the big song and dance, the other cats find out that Fievel's free, so they start chasing after him. And this is where we kind of get in the climax of the movie here. But Fievel speeds away, and the cats are chasing him. There was one thing that was a part of the plan, because the boat is leaving in a specific time. It's like 7
a.m., right?
6 a.m., I think. 6:50.
It's 6:50. It's about 10 minutes early.
Yeah, and she's like, we have to wait until right at 7 a.m. No earlier, no later. She's like, it has to happen at 7 a.m. Well, Fievel is being chased by these cats, and it's 10 minutes early. So now their plan is kind of shot. So Fievel's running and screaming. He's like, the cats are here, the cats are here. And he gets into, like, I guess it's a dock house. Is that what you would call it, Andrew? Like some sort of, like, boathouse or something on the pier.
Yeah.
And the mice have chained up. And the cats are trying to break in. You don't see the secret weapon, but you see it's this big constructed, like, apparatus thing. And they're trying to hold it back from being released. Some of the mice think that it's time, so they started like cutting wires and ropes and stuff. And then we have another huge mouse that's like kind of another central figure that's almost like a mayor trying to hold the thing back from being released. And then our matriarch mouse character is having a showdown. She's at the top of this house, and she's talking to the Rat King, Rat Guy, Rat Cat. Warranty Rat. Okay, so
Warranty Rat.
He's out, and he's got his rat disguise on. If you give me all your money, I'll tell these cats to leave you alone. And Fievel's like, don't trust him. He's a cat himself. And they end up shooting something at him, right? Like,
he shoots a little slingshot at him and knocks his nose off.
And expose that he's a cat. And then what happens now, Andrew? Now that they now know he's a cat.
So at this point, our other mouse leader of like downtown rats he's trying to hold back the secret weapon from coming out the doors and making its appearance known. But at this point, I think Warranty Rat just starts to set the dockhouse on fire. And there's a bunch of fireworks that are outside. So it gets set to explode. And I think at this point, Fievel has finally, like, truly showed up. And he gets inside. And he starts cutting the rope. No, he lit the rope on fire. They were trying to, like, take scissors and, like, a little jigsaw to cut that rope. And Fievel just lights it on fire. It's like, all right, let it go, boys. It's time.
And he gets thrown back, too, and hits his head on this metal, like, hook. And I'm like, well, Fievel's dead.
Yeah, I mean, he's knocked unconscious, essentially. But at this point, the secret weapon is released. The cats see something creaking from the door behind. It's like bulging out, waiting to come after them. The doors fly open. Some of the fireworks are being shot off left and right. And here they see this giant rat-like structure, and with their stupid cat brains. Cats aren't stupid, but in this situation, they are. They don't really know what the hell it is, and they're frightened, and goes swimmingly, according to plan. They take off down the dock towards the Hong Kong ship. I think they jump in the water and onto the anchor and make their way aboard the ship to Hong Kong. And that's it for our cat friends.
Let's talk about the animation for this secret weapon. Andrew, how would you describe it? Because you said it earlier. It's like a rat, like a big mouse.
They reference it at the beginning of the movie. And remember the story that he tells at the beginning of the movie about the biggest rat? Paul is like a...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're like almost like a god kind of mouse, like a savior mouse, like a Jesus mouse, God mouse. I don't know.
God mouse.
But the animation here, this would have been terrifying too as a kid.
Yeah, pretty scary.
The way they had it set up was like there was like a control room in like the head or like the upper body of this rat where you had mice like moving on seesaws and running around it was almost like a little miniature merry-go-rounds, but in their circular movement and their seesawing, they were powering this device and controlling it essentially. A little hectic, a little ridiculous, but again, it serves a purpose. We've turned a blind eye to some other things. So again, we'll let this slide. It's a little creative.
Beautiful animation. With the rat, it looks terrifying. It's kind of like, to me, the demon that they put in the ocean waves. It's very similar to that. It's very dark and shaded in a really dark way, especially the mouse head. It's almost like realistic, photorealistic, like punk rock, newspaperish. It's really cool. It's hard for me to describe it like not being a professional animator or knowing shit about animation. But the boathouse is on fire now, which with Fievel inside unconscious. So I think at this point, too, his family realizes Fievel's there. And like we said earlier, his family and him are crossing paths constantly, but due to clever storytelling, they never see each other. And now they do when Fievel collapses and goes unconscious, and everyone's outside on the pier, and they see the boathouse go up in flames, and you see the humans running in, trying to set the boathouse, or trying to set
it back on fire.
Trying to set it back on. The humans are running in, trying to put the fire out. There's a bunch of firefighters there. Definitely loved that they did a different animation style with the humans, and it's definitely rotoscoped in. Really interesting to make them look different than the mice.
It's almost like the mice look more real or more alive than the humans do.
There's more detail in it. It's almost like an
Much
80s
more detail.
like an 80s music video, early 80s, like the
like
Aha.
Take on Me.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. Maybe not as sketched out or traced, but very, like I said, it doesn't make them seem like they're truly alive. They're there, but they're not as present or prevalent.
They definitely used live actors and traced over them, but they end up going in and eventually just saving Fievel. It's not. It feels like it's going to be very like hectic and all this other stuff, and it ends up being anticlimactic. They end up just getting him out.
But I want to say before that, his sister hadn't given up hope that he was still alive. She had said multiple times, like, to her mom and dad, like, I feel that Fievel's alive. And they're like, let it go. And she's, no, I swear. And she was always the one who kept a positive outlook on it. And before the firefighters saved Fievel, they heard someone screaming, Philly Mouskevitz! Philly Mouskevitz! And sister heard it, reported it to Papa, and Papa's like, well, that's Philly, not Fievel. It could be anyone. And they meet up with this guy. They ask him, is his name Philly or Fievel? And he's like, well, both. And then Bridget comes out of the corner, hands him the hat, and they're like, oh my gosh, it is Fievel. He's alive. And that's what coincides with the firefighters saving Fievel. He's just down below, but they have no idea where he is. So again, toying with the audience, so close yet so far away. We've seen it a million times. But that is what dates, I guess, him being saved, which then leads us to him being put in the mice orphanage, correct?
Yes, I think so.
He was just dropped there. We don't know who put him in the orphanage, but he just wakes up and he's in an orphanage somewhere.
And then take us home.
Yeah. At this point, he meets a few of the orphans, and they're like, "Hey, you're nobody, just like us." And he's like, "No, my family is gonna find me." And they're like, "Well, are they looking for you? Have they found you?" And he has a little emotional outburst, and then falls asleep. And then he's woken up because he hears some things. Eventually, he completely awakens, and he hears his papa calling out his name, Fievel, and he hears him playing the violin, and he knows that he's near his father, and he runs around the corner, and they're his family, and Bridget and Tony riding on Tiger's back looking for him, and it's Kismet, it's beautiful, they're reunited, and all is well, essentially. And then to cap things off, they didn't really show Fievel settling into his parents' new home. Instead, they show him on the back of our French bird pigeon friends flying around Ellis. Yes. He's flying around Statue of Liberty, and it's fully built. His statue is fully built, and it's gold.
Yeah, it's
not
copper.
Green. It's not.
Copper,
it has
okay.
But copper,
yeah, I was gonna say this is how we know when this movie's supposed to take place.
Yeah,
it was right when it was completed. So this is literally like 1886.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
which I thought was a nice touch, because a lot of animated films, especially when they're kids animated films, would just make the Statue of Liberty green instead of like actually showing it when it's brand new and the copper hasn't oxidized yet. So I thought that was a
historical context.
Right. I actually really liked that context for this film, because like I said, a lot of movies would have copped out, oh, it's a kid's movie, who cares, who gives a shit, we'll just make it green because that's what they recognize. But that's how you educate kids, because I'm sure that a lot of kids in the 80s were like, why is the Statue of Liberty gold? They'll probably ask why it's gold, because it looks really gold, but and then you can explain as a parent.
And Don Bluth would have had a fucking fit if they chose to make it green. He'd be like, no, it was gold in 1886. Make it gold, damn it. He wouldn't have stood for that, you know?
Oh my God. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
They're flying. He's like, what's that over there? And he's like, well, that's America, and you will one day too see the rest of it, my American immigrant. And and that's how the movie ends. That's an American tale, literally and figuratively. But Andrew, let's start with you. You have vague knowledge of this movie when you were a kid. How do you feel about it now as an adult?
like I said, I remembered a number of the song and dance numbers. We didn't really talk about Somewhere Out There in the Blow by Blow, but that's okay. That song, the No Cats in America, Never Say Never, and the Tiger song. I remembered all those.
Tiger
I
song
didn't
is right.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't remember them word for word, but I knew the melodies.
Yep.
I wasn't sure what to expect with this one, just because it'd been so long, and literally I didn't remember hardly anything. Chase set it up like it was going to be super dark, but it wasn't as dark as I had thought it was going to be.
No,
But it's still
not like Secrets of Nim dark.
no, but it still had some heavier and darker moments for a children's animated movie. I feel like that was a real theme in this era, especially with someone like Don Bluth and what he created. Like, he didn't shelter kids from dark feelings, dark scenarios. I don't want to say he baptized them by fire, but he made them feel and experience things that kids don't get nowadays with their animated films. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
I just want to piggyback on what you were saying, and I totally agree, because I thought this film was going to be way darker than it actually was. And I don't know if it's just like hearsay or like, hey, we're watching a Don Bluth film from the 80s, like it's following Secret of Nim, it's like an independent project, like all that. I thought we would get something way darker than we actually did. And it does, like to your point, it does deal with like kind of some heavy subject matter, especially heavy subject matter for children, because that's not something that like a lot of children are going to understand. But it is a tale, no pun intended, as old as time, or at least as old as that time period. Right. So it kind of, to me, it was kind of fun to kind of go down that road of seeing an early Don Bluth film. But I do agree it wasn't as dark as I anticipated it being.
I think one thing that stuck with me about this movie, besides the brilliant animation, like it really sucks you in, brings you into the world around you. It's so colorful and vibrant, but the music that's paired with it is phenomenal. James Horner does a really good job yet again. All of those song and dance numbers hit.
Absolutely.
There was real, like the melodies were catchy and they stuck with you. And that's I feel like that's something that shouldn't be taken for light. When the music lasts and multiple musical numbers last, you've done something right. And just as a little side, I don't know if you all heard it, but there were a number of little motifs with just the orchestra in there that sounded very similar to Land Before Time. I don't know if you all caught it, but there were multiple times where I wanted to go into the bum ba dum bum 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 bum. That's like the repeating motif in that movie, but I heard it or something very similar to that sequence multiple times in this movie.
Kyle, what about you? How did you feel about this movie as an adult?
So as an adult, I thought it was pretty good. It's worth a watch. I would probably watch it again, to be honest with you. I wouldn't seek it out, but if it was that time of year we had to like watch something with Winnie or just watch something in general, like a family movie, this would be up there. It was definitely agreeing with, like, it was not as dark as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be much darker, but it's definitely not unbearable or like really too poignant to watch as an adult, because it has such a nice resolution to it. So I enjoyed it, and I liked the parallel storytelling and historical accuracy in from the period piece aspect of it that really brought me in. And when I was doing some research today on it, it's pretty spot on. They hit everything pretty well. There's a couple things that punch above their body weight with, and I would say one of those things would be the using the warranty rat as a parallel to like Cosa Nostra. I don't know if that's what they're going for, but that's what I got out of it. I don't know enough about their history to know exactly when they started in America. I would assume pretty much immediately, but it did a good job of a lot of different things. And the mice were cute, the little song, and all the mice sing together. What was that one, Andrew?
You're talking about No Cats in America?
No, the one where all the little tiny orphan mice are singing.
Oh.
Somewhere Out There?
Somewhere Out There, yeah. Somewhere Out There.
That was just the cutest thing to listen to them sing. And that's what sets this movie apart, that nowadays it would all be auto-tuned computerized bullshit sloth. But back then they were like, sing as best as you can, and they had the kids singing it. It just worked. It worked really well. It was just imperfect enough. So
Yeah, I
yeah, I liked it.
I agree with both of you. I very much enjoyed it. And it was an easy watch. Like, what is
It
it?
was easy.
Like less
An
than an
hour and
hour
20?
20? Yeah, with
That's an hour
Not
20
even
flat.
yeah, it's
Yeah, but like with it was like hour 13, hour 15 altogether.
If you don't count the credits, probably
yeah.
like an hour 13, hour 15, something like that.
It's
Mhm.
to me it like I'll just add this to me, especially with the historical context, what it represents, the story it's telling. To me, this was the better Great Mouse Detective.
100%. This
Uh,
was everything the Great Mouse Detective wanted to
With-
be, but couldn't
Mhm.
necessarily put that finishing touch on there.
Right, because they're both
Uh,
about the same length. They're both dealing with mice in human world, and they're both very similar in animation style. Although I'd take this one over them, A Great Mouse Detective. It just to me, it was the upgrade of that movie. So I did thoroughly enjoy it. It's not a movie I'm going to watch a million times over. I would watch it again, but not anytime soon. There's only certain children's movies I'm going to rewatch by myself or around others, and those are going to be ones that like have a strong nostalgic feel to them. I want to watch Five Goes West now because I think that's the one that I had a lot more like familiarity with as a kid, but I do remember this one not as much as I thought I did. But Andrew, do you think it holds up?
oh yeah, yeah. I like you said, I really enjoyed watching this today. Like it wasn't a chore. Music was amazing. The environment, the animation, and the story is some full deep think story, but like it's still entertaining. There's a lot of random juxtaposition that doesn't matter, but you're still captured and enthralled by it. I really liked it. I think it holds up 100% of the way. This is one that I actually kind of look forward to watching again. Probably won't be in the near future, but at some point I'll pull it out and I'll watch it again, and I'll enjoy it
Yeah.
just as I did today. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think this one holds up. But like I said, I think it's important. It's historically it's very important, and I think it's very important for kids even today in 2026 understand this and understand this part of history. Not that it's the darkest time in history or anything like that, but just because it's important to know where people come from, and especially in our country and the way our country is moving these days, we all came from somewhere, and that's something you can't forget. So I definitely think it holds up. Kyle, do you think it holds up?
100%. I just don't see how it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Again, the parallel storytelling from the human standpoint and the mouse standpoint, as well as the parallels drawn between 1886 Russia / United States and now, and the historical accuracy in it, while being a kids movie. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and, because of all of the stuff we talk about, rescind one of my points away. It will no longer receive a point off because they're allowed to do that if they're going to be that good with the storytelling. I'm okay with that. It's okay. So it holds up, but this is a bigger hold up.
What would you give it on IMDb, Kyle?
I would give this a 7.2.
Wow.
Yep.
One of the higher ones. Andrew, what about you?
He took my number. I'm gonna go with him. 7.2 as well.
I'm
Hand in hands, Kyle.
I was gonna say
Yeah, baby girl.
6.8 sounds good to me for whatever reason. So I'm gonna stick with the 6.8. So what is it actually, Andrew? Do you know?
Yeah, I looked it up for our call. It is 6.9. So we're all around
Hell yeah.
Mhm.
that number. It was nominated for. There's another Oscar it was nominated for Best Original Song, which is Somewhere Out There. It was nominated for Best Original Song at the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes, but it lost to Take My Breath Away from Top Gun the same year.
Yeah, of course it did.
But it won 2
Bow,
Grammys.
bow, bow.
Linda Ronstadt and the person she sang it with, I forgot his name. I should probably give him credit.
Billy Idol.
No, give me 1 second here.
No, it was Rod Stewart.
No, one moment here.
Clapton. It was Eric Clapton. I'm sorry.
It was James Ingram, Linda Ronstadt and James Ingram. They won 2 Grammys for it. So
Yeah.
No Academy, no Golden Globe, but 2 Grammys, so it's pretty good.
He's the 5th Beatle, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, you know what we do around here. We reach inside your childhood nostalgia. We pull the movies from the past out. We pulled out An American Tail, and we found out it holds up. And maybe you should go west with it and see the sequel. I don't know. Maybe that's what we'll do next. Andrew, what are we doing next week? It is something that you had picked, isn't it?
It is, because I read the books, but I also remember the movie, The Black Cauldron. Big
Lot to
part of
talk
my
about.
childhood. Yeah, a lot to talk about. It kind of has I wouldn't say a cult following, but it has importance for a number of reasons.
Right.
And we'll have to just dive in and see what goes.
Well, that's right. Next week, you can catch us as we look at The Black Cauldron, the movie that almost did Disney in. We'll find out if it holds up and if it gets all the hate that it deserves. We'll see you all next Thursday.